All right. Well, thank you all for joining us today for this informational session. Guess I should share my screen in just a second, although maybe we'll do quick introductions for folks on our team first. I'm Erica Wright. I am from the Center for Astrophysics, which is a collaboration between Harvard and Smithsonian. And I am one of the leads for our Informal Learning Network that's part of NASA's Universe of Learning, and who will be offering this funding opportunity. We've got a nice big team with us here today. Jessie, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, everybody. My name is Jasenia Perez. My friends call me Jessie. I work for the Space Telescope Science Institute as an informal education specialist, and I am also one of the leads for the Informal Learning Network, and we'll be talking to you today about the different tiers of funding.
Mary, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Mary Dussault. Hello, everyone. Great to see so many people interested in this program. I also am at the Center for Astrophysics with Erica and support this program as a advisor and cheerleader for everyone.
Tim, you want to go next?
Yeah, I am Tim Rue. I am also at Space Telescope in Baltimore with Jessie, trying to get ready for this big telescope launch going up pretty soon, and everything else. And like Mary, I'm here supporting, advising, cheerleading, everything we can to help keep this all going forward.
All right. Wendy, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Wendy Hancock with the Association of Science and Technology Centers, ASTC, and I work closely with Jessie and Tim, and of course, Mary and Erica as well, on the Aztec side of the dissemination of the mini funds. So you'll get your check from me.
And our friends at Smithsonian Affiliations send their regards. Unfortunately, they had other commitments today and weren't able to make it, but they're very excited to support this effort and will actively continue to be a part of the community going forward. Just schedules are tough. All right, so let's dive into the day. Let me share my screen here. And get us into present mode. Can we see that okay? No, not yet. It's still loading. There we go.
All good. Yeah.
There we go. All right. So what you're all here for, our Informal Learning Network, RFP. We've just announced it. Got some more joining us. And we're excited to share it with you and start to partner with you over the coming months and years. We're really excited to expand this network and bring new communities, new members into this network. So today we're going to go through a little information with you about this. So we're going to start by just giving a quick overview. Jessie will give you kind of an understanding of what the tiers are. We'll give you some background on kind of what we're hoping to see, and then we'll really just open it up to a Q&A. We want to answer whatever questions you have about this session. So to get us started, our goal here is to achieve impactful astrophysics programming that's innovative, inclusive, accessible, and relevant to broader audiences. So what does that mean? What are we offering? We're providing funding for you to engage your communities, your local communities. And we're doing this through tiers. As you've seen, hopefully you've seen, we've got 3 tiers available to you because we know that different folks want to be able to work at different levels of impact, have different capacity, and we want to make sure we're supporting that throughout the informal learning community. And you'll note that we have a real focus, an even stronger focus this time than previously for those of you that have participated in this community in the past on serving underserved communities in STEM and STEAM programming. So you'll see throughout the tiers that is a priority for us. Inclusivity, diversity, equity, and access is a huge priority within this funding opportunity. And we want to provide opportunities for you to all be able to do that work. So we're going to dive right into kind of what these tiers are. What does this mean? What does this look like? What is each of these funding levels really? What are we hoping to accomplish with each funding level? So Jessie's going to get us started on tier 1.
Absolutely. Thank you, Erica. So tier 1 is all about focused astrophysics program partnerships. So the Informal Learning Network has developed over 40 astronomy program models over the past several years. These range from family astronomy events to summer camps and after-school experiences. This funding opportunity for Tier 1 is to support organizations in adopting, adapting, and refocusing one of these program models to better address the interests of a specific underserved community. Program implementations can be similar to past Informal Learning Network program models, but should be more deeply intentional and designed for and with a particular community. Focus should be primarily on diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. This is the most similar to past program models, but it has that deeply intentional design for and with a particular audience. So what does that look like? So an example of what this could possibly look like is partner with a local refugee community center, work with the center to determine the needs and interests of their community, then tailor an existing program model and implement it to meet the needs of their audience. Make sure this program model can be adaptable and address any new needs as they arise throughout the length of the program. So that's just an example of what Tier 1 could be. That's not a be all do all. That is just a clear example of what Tier 1 looks like. And what you see on the slide here, we have the funding level, so the range of what the funding could look like. And this is eligible for all ASTC members and Smithsonian affiliate members. Next slide, Erica. So Tier 2, expanding the network. So this is growing community partnerships. So the purpose of this is all about building capacity in your communities by leveraging the expertise at your organization. We want you to really establish a mini network of organizations in your community working to introduce NASA's Universe of Learning content to a broader community. So these mini networks should build on existing knowledge of the Informal Learning Network program models, content areas, and support others in your community and engaging with astrophysics content. So what is something that could look like? So an example of Tier 2 would be you develop a program series with a local community program like the Boys and Girls Club that involves multiple visits or professional development for facilitators with Boys and Girls Club that culminates in a program that involves, let's say if you're working for a museum, it involves your museum. Okay, so that's an example of what that could look like. The funding level for this is $5,000 to $10,000, and this could be over 1 to 2 years. Eligibility for this is for existing members of the Informal Learning Network, sorry. So those who have previously received funding from NASA's Universe of Learning. All right, so Tier 3. The next slide. So this is the big one, the final tier. This is the big expansion of the network on a larger scale. So really maximizing our impact here. We want to broaden the community of organizations participating in NASA's Universe of Learning Informal Learning Network. So we really hope that with this network, it's to establish a community or regional network that works together to reduce barriers to NASA's Universe of Learning, content and resources. So this network should include broad perspectives in its efforts to expand pathways to engage with astrophysics content and more broadly STEM fields. This network should collaborate and co-create with its community over time. So over that 2-year period that you see at the top at the funding level here. An example of what this could look like for Tier 3 is it could be a convening of a regional network of planetaria over the course of 2 years, work to increase inclusivity in planetaria shows, could bring planetaria and community organizations to work together on this. So maybe you want to partner the planetaria with Boys and Girls Club. That could be a connection. So that's one example of what Tier 3 could be. The funding level for this is $10,000 to $20,000 over the course of 2 years, like I said. And eligibility is for existing members, so just like Tier 2 of the Informal Learning Network. So those who have previously received funding. So that is the highlights of the tiers, and we will be doing a Q&A at the end of this. So if you have questions, save them or put them in the chat and we'll go over it. All right. Back to you, Erica.
All right, thanks, Jesse. So as as you hopefully heard through what Jesse was presenting, I want to share, some of the elements we're really looking for in these proposals that will be successful. We're looking to broaden the diversity of organizations that are using NASA's Universe of Learning resources. You'll find, I think Tim shared a link in the chat for us, some of the program models. Within all of those program models are loads of resources developed by NASA's Universe of Learning. And we want to make sure that they're getting out to new audiences, that new audiences have access to them, are also able to use them. We want to reduce those barriers to using those resources. So we're here to support that as well. So one of the goals is that you'll plan to work with us, that this Informal Learning Network team is here to support proposals. So plan that in, think about how we might be able to make you most successful in working with these audiences. We want to make sure you're being specific about how you're increasing DEIA efforts in your programs and who you're working with, how you're working with them. We want, as Jesse kind of highlighted there, that we're working with communities, not for or providing at communities, that we're really engaging communities and figuring out what they need and how we can best support them. And so we want to see that in these proposals. And just to highlight again, because it can there's a lot of NASA stuff out there. We want to see these program models using NASA's Universe of Learning resources. They can use other resources as well, but we want to make sure that we're getting these resources out to communities in best ways possible. So those are kind of the big highlights of what successful proposals will look like. Of course, there's many more things that can go on. I know you all have a lot of questions. So we really want to make this an active Q&A and see how we can best answer those questions for you. So I'm going to stop the share here and open this up. I think we've got a few questions that have previously been asked, so we can kind of start there and give everybody a moment to think about their questions. So let me stop my share here. So our first question that we have here, hold on, let me get that back. There we go. So our first question that came in previously was about evaluations of the project, what needs to be included. Jesse, do you want to take it or do you want me to?
Yeah, I can take that. So for this question, we are not requiring implementing evaluations on your own, but we may ask your organization and your audiences to participate in one of our own evaluations. And I believe one of our evaluators are here on the call, Karen. Karen, if you want to jump in and talk about what our evaluations might look like on our end for them to participate in.
Hey, yeah, and far be it from me to say that you shouldn't do evaluation on your own programs. It's just not a requirement of the grant. But yeah, I'm one of the evaluators for the Universe of Learning project in general, and the Informal Learning Network is one of the projects within that I am the external evaluator for. And I think what we would do with this is we would want to see once awardees get the money, how does it go? What do they do with it? What kind of outcomes are there? So we would want to talk to you once the project was well underway. But it wouldn't be a heavy lift for you. Basically, we're talking if you had half an hour to talk to me just to tell me about the work that you've been doing. That's the evaluation. We're going to have it be very qualitative and open-ended for this phase of the funding. Hope that's clear.
Thank you, Karen.
Yes, and we would love to see you do your own evaluation, but we realize the funding is limited, and so we're not going to make that a requirement here, but we would absolutely love to see you do it. And if you do your own evaluation, we would love to see those results ourselves. Also, we will be asking for reports and any lessons learned. So we'd love to hear that back in those reports as well. But of course, funding is limited and we don't want to, we can only ask for so much. And we're really interested in seeing this work happen and what you yourselves are learning. Let's see, we've got a new question in the chat from Jim. I'll come back to that question in a second. So then previously we had hopefully a relatively simple question is how is rural defined? We're using the US Census definition, which is pretty kind of broad. For anybody that hasn't seen it before, it's a series of maps of urban and suburban areas, and it's defined as anything outside of that area. we're not going to go in and fine tooth comb it and see where you lie on that. Make the case that you're serving an underserved rural audience, and we're going to believe you unless you tell us you're in New York City and you're serving a rural audience. But other than that, it's a pretty broad definition here. Tish, yes. So Tish has asked if there's an online application, if we can see a sample. Yes, that is all on that our landing page. I think Jessie will put it in the chat box. I know her, she's so efficient like that. So on that landing page, there's a link directly to the application. There are also 3 separate PDFs. Each tier has their own application. They're quite similar, but with some specific questions geared towards each tier individually. There's also a template for partners. We'd like to see you get a partner letter commitment form so that we know you're actively working with these communities. It's template, you don't have to ask for much from them, just saying they're on board and they want to work with you. So getting those signed, and there's a place there as well to submit that that letter of support. So let's see, what else do we have for questions? So Jim has asked us, if someone comes up with a tier 2 proposal that happens to be similar to another, is it possible to combine them into a tier 3 program? I hadn't thought about that. So if 2 members of our community are kind of interested in similar work and perhaps want to then engage together broadly, absolutely. I'm not sure how we'll know that until we see the proposals, how to provide that. But we're very interested in supporting this in many different ways. I can't see why we wouldn't encourage that as well. Broader connections are great here.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you know of another organization that's applying for that tier 2 and it's matching sort of what you're doing, feel free to connect with them and make that partnership and work towards that tier 3 funding. We highly encourage it, and we would love to see what that application would look like for sure. We also have another question, Erica, from I Got a Direct question. If your December application is accepted, when would we be notified and the funds distributed?
Yes, so we'll be making decisions in January. So after the New Year, decisions will be made. It may take us a little while to announce those, and I know that the funding can sometimes take a little time to go through. Wendy, do you want to give a sense of what, if decisions are made mid-January-ish, what the funding would timeline would be for ASTC?
I would imagine if we hear in mid-January, we get the list, go through all that, we would let you know. We need some paperwork back and forth, agreements, that kind of thing. So I would imagine you would receive the money probably by the end of February, just depending on the length of, that back and forth for the paperwork.
And I can see that timing being similar for affiliations. The one difference being that for those of you that haven't done our Smithsonian affiliates and haven't worked with Mary and I in the past or received funding through affiliations, you have to get into systems, government systems, and that can take a little bit of time. But we can try and we'll help you work through that. I know Natalie Wormley, who works with us closely as part of this team, is putting together an FAQ to kind of streamline that as much as possible. Tim?
I want to add something on there as well. As we have in the past, when we disperse the funds, it won't be the full amount right at the beginning. You can expect that to be split between with a majority of it coming at the beginning and then a second portion after we get the report at the end. If you are in the tier 3, we're probably going to look at your timeline and split that. It might end up being 3 disbursements. It's going to depend on what the timeline looks for that.
Yes, thank you, Tim. Yes, we keep a little back just to encourage those reports to come in. We trusted all of you, but keeping a little there helps that. I have another question here, a direct question to me, asking if we apply for tier 2, will we let you know if your application is more appropriate for tier 1 rather than denying the request? Absolutely. If it looks like you're applying to a tier that maybe it would be more appropriate for another tier, we'll absolutely let you know. Jesse and I also want to let you know that we are open to small, short conversations. If you're, really not sure and you'd like a little more personal guidance, kind of brief conversations to provide a little bit of feedback on kind of what you're thinking and where that might align with our programming. So John is asking, what is the suggested timeline for implementation? That will depend on your tier and your program and your community members. So for tier 3, we're looking at over the course of about 2 years. So there's a few sample timelines in that application, one for each tier. If you're applying for tier 1, starting in February, making some connections in the spring, kind of building trust with your community partner, perhaps running a program in the summer or next fall, depending on who your community partners are and kind of what's most appropriate for their audiences, and wrapping up sometime in late 2022, early 2023, who knows what year it is anymore. So that would be a timeline for kind of the tier 1 funding. Like I said, there's examples in those PDFs. It's really up to you and what you see is going to work with your community partners, and kind of a 2-year timeline is kind of the longest we're looking for. If you're tier 1, it's going to take some time to work with that community partner and you want to hold off and getting started until next summer and plan for a program in the spring, that's also fine. If that works better with the partners that you're hoping to connect with.
Absolutely. And tier 2, we say over the course of 1 to 2 years. So it's really at your discretion to choose how you want to build that partnership. If it makes sense to do it over 2 years to have a more successful program, we encourage you to do that. Or if you could do it over the course of a year, that's fine too. So you have that option for tier 2 as well. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to augment what you said, Jesse, in that I think the nature of tier 3 is such that I think it felt to us like you couldn't do that work in a year.
Yes.
That's why it's over.
That's correct.
2 years.
Yeah, we picked 2 years because what we were asking and requesting really dictated that amount of time for sure.
If you're debating between whether it's a tier 2 or tier 3 project, that might be a piece of guidance for you.
Yeah. Tier 2 could also take 2 years, depending on how you're working with your community partner. But we could also see that being maybe 14 months or something along those lines, where getting things started and then running a program throughout a year. So
I see there's another question in the chat.
Want to read it out? I've got a direct one I'm trying to read through.
Okay, yeah. Are there any items in our plan that would eliminate us from the competition? Example, no equipment or no teacher pay. Tish, can you expand on that question a bit more? I just want to make sure I understand what you're
I just don't want us to get thrown out for any reason.
Okay, yeah, there is.
I think our only technical. Oh, go ahead, Jesse. Sorry.
Oh no. As long as it matches the required elements of the successful proposal, we obviously will take it into consideration, the different things that are coming up. But Erica, you can take over.
So one little thing, and I'll give you a way to kind of, technically we're not supposed to, we can't provide funding for food, but program supplies are fine. So I'll put that out there. So don't directly ask for food for a workshop. That is one limitation. We'll also, like, if it's a small thing that you're asking to fund, we'll come back to you. If you submit and ask for something that we can't fund for some NASA reason, we'll come back to you and say, hey, we can't fund this. Is there something else that your program needs that would be appropriate?
Well, I know in the past, you've always been very helpful along the way. I appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you, Tish. We're
So
always happy.
you're saying though that if we secured Oreos for Faces of the Moon as a program supply.
That would be totally fine.
Okay.
Yeah, so equipment to carry out projects, absolutely okay. Salaries are fine. Mary, is there any other limitations? I know you're the pro at this.
Yeah, yeah. So I want to just comment on the equipment because the word equipment, of course, is a term of art that means an item over $5,000 in granting. So I'm not in grant remember, these are not grants, these are awards for your service and activity. So depending on the nature of what you want to do, the ratio of the price of your equipment to the activity you're doing, you want to be a little careful about that. I mean, if you say, we want $20,000 to buy a new planetarium, and we'll bring this audience in, I would want to see more description about the in-kind resources that you would be bringing to do a much bigger program. So I just want to, but it's certainly the case that materials and supplies, so that participants from different audiences can engage meaningfully, are an absolutely allowable expense, as are staff salaries.
So I have another kind of comment in the chat box here to me, coming back to a question we had earlier about groups working together. If two or more organizations have similar goals, if you want to combine, I think this is mostly going to apply to tiers 2 and 3. And so I want to suggest that, and folks that are new, we can start adding you to this community. We have a Google group. So we can invite any of you that would like to be part of that. Absolutely. You might want to use the Google group to kind of put out there what you're interested in doing if anybody wants to connect. You're also welcome to post it here now if you've got an idea already kind of stirring in the back and you want to see if somebody else is interested in kind of partnering with you. Absolutely feel free to throw that out there.
There is the community of practice within the ASTC website as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Another place to try and connect with some folks, and some folks who aren't on that group or aren't here already, if you're trying to pull in some other people.
Tim, could you repeat that?
The community of practice on the AST website. Let me put in a link. But if you're an ASTC member, then you can join the community of practice if you're not already there. There's an online forum, and there are also links at all sorts of Massachusetts Universal Learning resources. You can check out some of the old videos we've done talking through astrophysics in 7 sessions. A bunch of good stuff there. So I'll drop that link for everybody.
Yeah, and I don't think you have to be an Aztec member to join that community of practice, just in case there's a Smithsonian affiliate institution here who is not an Aztec member, you can also join that community of practice.
Jesse, I'm going to hand the reins over for you 2 seconds. My front door has flung open, so I will be right back.
No worries. Yeah. And I see Wendy has dropped here the community of practice link. So thank you, Wendy.
Yeah, that's the general one. If you want to get to the specific U of L one, I believe you have to sign in before you can get there. But there's the full of numbers and everything that will get you right to the U of L. And Wendy clarifies, you don't need to be an ASTC member to join.
Excellent.
Sign in, create an account, and then you can follow that link that I dropped.
And if you've ever, I forgot I can turn this on. If you've ever attended the Aztec conference or one of our workshops or any of those things, you probably already have a My Aztec account. If you're not too sure, you can put in your email and it will let you know. And if you've forgotten your password, there is a password reset as well.
Thank you, Wendy. All right. you have any more questions, feel free to plug them in the chat or unmute yourself and ask away. On the outer space page, I will say where we have our requirements for successful proposals and everything you need to know. At the bottom of that page, we have resources as well. So if you're new to the community and you would like an introduction, there is some slides on NASA's Universe of Learning. We also link out to past webinars from the previous version of program models. And we have other resources that you can explore as well. So highly encourage if you're new here to check those resources out. Okay, and I see in the chat, thank you, Jim, plugged in about what you're thinking to prepare for tier 2. So if you are also planning to do some version of a Girl Scout patch or something similar, feel free to reach out to Jim to collaborate. This is exciting. Collaboration requests happening live. Okay, stop.
One other thing I want to point out that will be useful in the new year, perhaps after you've submitted your proposals, but still useful as you're planning what your programs will fully look like. We'll be announcing a new website in the new year for NASA's Universe of Learning, and all of the resources that NASA's Universe of Learning have developed will be even easier to navigate through and search for and find. So we're very excited for that.
Yes, we just got the preview today. It looks really good.
It looks amazing and super easy to navigate.
Erica and Jesse, I wanted to mention one other thing for newcomers to the community of practice that kind of one of the most common reasons where we wanted to go back and encourage modifications to a proposal in the past were based on the realm of the universe in which you have your participants exploring space, meaning NASA's Universe of Learning really focuses on engaging audiences in content that's related to the universe beyond the solar system. Now, we're completely on board with the fact that most people's introduction to topics in astronomy is through the solar system, and so that it's not that you can't talk about the solar system in any programming that you might do, but that figuring out how to make authentic connections to the big questions about what's beyond the solar system is an important part of the subject matter that we want people to be engaged in.
Right. So an example might be starting with the planets in our solar system and then making that connection to planets around other stars. That would be fantastic if you start introducing those extrasolar planets as well.
There's also another opportunity as well for beyond the solar system. We also have this telescope launching in December. Webb, you may have heard of it. It's launching, if all goes to plan, December 18th, knock on wood. But so if you are part of Webb or doing programming for Webb, you can adapt one of our program models to align with your Webb program. That could be a good tier 1 opportunity. Or in the summer, in June and July, Webb, once it's off of commissioning and starts doing its science, we will be having early release observations sometime coming down in July. So any event celebrating early release observations that align with any previous program models could be a good fit for tier 1 as well. So I just did my Webb, that's my Webb plugin. I will pull back now.
One other thing I'll kind of highlight that some organizations in the past have taken great advantage of, and others maybe haven't realized is available to them as much, is that we have subject matter experts from across the whole NASA's Universe of Learning spectrum, across the spectrum, let's go with that, available to you. We're happy to help connect you with scientists, engineers, whoever else you might be interested in bringing to your organization, either virtually or in person. If they're local, we've got folks at organizations across the country. And that is something we absolutely want to support connecting you with. And they're available not just as presenters, but there are folks interested in, and happy to maybe review documents that you might put together, making sure that your science is accurate. Some are interested in doing small mentoring opportunities where they connect with you over time. So we are really able to search through. We have databases of scientists and other experts that we're happy to put you in contact with for your program models. Can one organization submit multiple applications? I'll say yes, though we're likely only to select one. We will be kind of looking at dispersal, making sure that the funds reach as many organizations as possible. So you're welcome to submit multiple applications, but we're not likely to select multiple applications from one organization.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's say you have a program that could fit within tier 1, but you made ways to expand it to maybe fit tier 2 or 3. You can do that program and just do the expansions on the different applications, and we can read through and review and see which one matches to our qualifications best. So definitely you can submit multiple ones.
You're also welcome to reach out to us, and if you've kind of got 2 ideas that fall under 2 different things and you want to see kind of how it aligns, and you've got ideas, maybe you're not sure, we're happy to have those conversations with you.
Yeah. Or even if you just have a general idea and you just want to bounce it off of us, like, hey, we're thinking of this for tier 1. Does this match what you're thinking? Like, just for clarification, love to see those emails, happy to work through them. So please email us if you have any ideas and you're just not sure if you should pull the trigger and apply. So we can review that with you.
You're asking for December what? 18? What's the due date?
16th, December 16th.
16, because the 18 is, yeah, James Webb. Okay. Can I just ask if you guys are taking some time off so we wouldn't be able to contact you anytime the week before or anything? Would you all be available for questions?
Yes, if you want to make sure to email both Jesse and I, we likely will only have one of us. We'll put both of our emails in the chat here again for everybody. One of us will be able to get back.
Week after, we can't promise.
Right. There's one reason it's before the launch. And Jesse's got lots of web stuff. I've got other things, so one of us will find time.
Absolutely.
Questions? Mary or Tim, anything else you feel like folks should know?
I think you've covered the range quite well. Let me just ask, just for people's information, when people do ask questions that other people might be interested in the answer to, do you have a way of letting all potential applicants know the answers to those questions?
Yes, we're going to be putting together an FAQ that is on that landing page. So there isn't one yet because we're just now getting our questions. We'll also put the link to this recording on that landing page. We'll put that in the chat one more time just so everybody has it, but you can look there for answers. And Jesse and my emails are on there as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. At the bottom of the page. There's one more question in the chat here. What is ASTC's role in this process? So Wendy, are you still on the call? If you would like to take that one.
Sure. So we are technically we're a subcontractor on this agreement, and the Smithsonian affiliates and Aztec are distribution and members, or teammates, I should say. That might be a good way to put it. We help recruit the people to apply for these mini funds. And then we also are kind of the go-between for some of the paperwork to receive your funds, and we are the financial agent in terms of we're the ones who actually give you the funding. The check will come from us. And we of course meet with the team regularly, and I don't believe we're reviewing the submissions, the proposals, but yeah, so we play a fun role of giving out the money.
Wendy has opportunities to provide feedback if she's interested on proposals. I know Affiliations is interested in seeing what you all submit, so.
It's always fun. We love to see that. And then we'll do some other things like webinars about your projects to the wider community. And then at the Aztec annual conference, which will be in person in Pittsburgh, September 12th through 15th. Mark it down on your calendars. Very exciting. And the call for proposals is going to open soon. So look for more information about that. But I digress. So we'll do webinars and things at the annual conference to keep the community engaged and get people more involved in the Universe of Learning project and using those resources, because it's all about building the community and building the field, which then in turn builds the general public's knowledge about all of these great things.
Absolutely. One other thing I want to make sure I mention, it is in the application, but since we're here, one thing we'll ask of you, we did mention we'll ask you to speak with our evaluators at some point. We also want, if you're funded, we'll likely ask to meet with you, not too regularly, but perhaps like once a quarter or twice a year, depending on your project and what you're looking to do, so that we can check in and also make sure that you're getting the support you need from us. So that is a requirement that we ask of you in the application to commit to, but that also it's a requirement, but also a benefit. We'll be able to let you know about new resources, things that have come up as you've been developing your program. Wendy, we always appreciate your shameless plugs. All right, and I'm going to put Jesse's and my emails in the chat again, just so that although they are on that landing page, you have them if you want to set up meetings with us, or maybe I'll type mine and Jesse, you can type yours real quick. Mine's a lot longer. All right, so we've still got another 15 minutes, and you see the kind of questions are slowing down, but we're happy to answer any others more specific to things you're thinking about, if you're willing to share that with the community. Otherwise, you can email us if you want to run it by us first. Well, we are so excited to see so many of you on this call. I know we're really looking forward to seeing what ideas you come up with, kind of where you're thinking you can take this, what new audiences you might engage with, and how we can better support more diverse communities in engaging with NASA's astrophysics.